Hey, thanks for getting me lunch today, mate. Really appreciate that.
No, not a problem. I just don't understand why someone who's allergic to eggs would just order so many eggs.
Oh, no, I'm intolerant towards eggs.
What does that mean?
It means, hang on, I'll show you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wait, let me...
Oh.
Wait.
Oh my God. Man, I think you're pretty talented.
Wait.
No, Byrne, not near the heater. Hey, you buddy.
What's going on, mate? I'm glad we got that fan out. Jeez.
Just got to put the roof back on the house.
The walls look a little bit yellower than they did a little while ago. But no, today we're going to be talking about food allergies.
Food allergies.
Yeah, very common these days, you know?
They are. You always hear about so-and-so's got a peanut allergy. Stop feeding my kid peanuts.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's heaps of them out there. Peanuts is the biggie, obviously, but according to the CDC, the Centre for Disease Control, food allergies have been rising, and only a small number of foods actually cause these allergies. The chief of which is peanuts.
Oh. Yeah, because I know kids can have anaphylaxis, or people can have anaphylaxis. Primarily, peanut allergies are found in kids, I'm assuming?
Yeah, most allergies are in kids. Allergies are far more common in children than they are in adults, which is one of the sort of curiosities, if you will, about this rising case in food allergies, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah.
Some of the more common allergies, though, apart from peanuts, are eggs. Hey. Milk. Milk's a big one. Wheat's there as well. Celiac disease. And shellfish, and also tree nuts. So other kinds of nuts as well, like sesame seeds and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they're the most common ones. And apparently those 6-odd allergies are responsible for more than 80% of all allergies.
Wow, that's a huge portion of allergies made up by such a small number of things.
Yeah, just a small number of foods. It's weird when you think about it, isn't it? How many allergies we think exist out there are responsible for just a small number of foods, you know?
Are you allergic to anything?
No, not that I'm aware of, though. If you ask my wife, she would argue I am intolerant to a number of things. Are you?
I don't know. There's certain things that I'll start sneezing and things like that. Like I'll have sneezing fits.
Oh, I get pretty good hay fever, but
there's certain things that will induce hay fever, such as like being around horses and things like that. Cats as well.
Yeah, okay. I get pretty bad hay fever to
kind
cats.
Of stuff like that, but nothing where I'm like my throat's swallowing up type thing.
Yeah, okay. Well, when I look through the research here, there is a bit of a problem with distinguishing between what could be considered an allergy and what could be considered an intolerance.
Okay, so there's a difference.
There is a difference. So allergies can lead to things like death. That's like anaphylaxis. They're really serious things. But the problem is a lot of symptoms associated with allergies are also symptoms of an intolerance too. Okay, the problem is if you get those symptoms in an allergy and then you persist eating whatever it is, you might die. So a lot of the stuff when we're talking about observing allergies is to do with the production of antibodies when you're exposed to like the allergens.
Yep.
And in particular, the antibody they're usually looking at in these studies is called immunoglobulin E. And that particular antibody is responsible for triggering an immune response, okay, from an allergen in the relevant cells. Okay,
Yep.
so a lot of the research we're looking at is looking at the allergic response, i.e. the immunoglobulin E activation. Okay, now, we talked about rising, and the CDC said that there are a rising number of food allergies, but are there really? Like,
I don't know, Byrne. Are
is there? Well, a 2017 study from the Internal Medicine Journal by Australian researchers, I should add.
Represent.
They recognised that increases in clinical diagnoses, hospital admissions for anaphylaxis, and greater identification in self-assessed surveys, particularly in Western countries, one of the reasons behind this increase. So that's just saying maybe allergies aren't actually on the increase. We're just more aware of them now.
Our diagnostics of allergies are better. Our awareness of allergies are...
Absolutely. Our record keeping. So if they do end up in hospital anaphylaxis, we write it down, that kind of stuff. But what they're sort of saying is this awareness has not yet spread to a lot of Eastern countries. So they're expecting allergies around the world to continue to rise. They're going to keep on rising.
Oh, imagine the bloody mummies organic groups jumping on that one.
Yeah, and like this sort of is upheld when you look at migrant populations moving into Western countries, because the ones that have the biggest increase in allergic responses are migrants. So all of a sudden they go to a new country, there's a new environment, they're educated or informed about allergies, and maybe that's a big part of why we're seeing an increase in the number of allergies cases recorded, or allergic reactions to different foods and things like that as well.
So migrants are more likely to suffer from allergies?
Yeah, potentially, yeah. That's what the data seems to be indicating. But why? Is it because of their difference in diet, or is it because they've all of a sudden learned about it, or is there some sort of other underlying factor that might be misattributed to an allergy as well?
Interesting.
So there's another study in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology from 2007, which conducted a meta-analysis, and we all love a good meta-analysis here at Sci-gasm, don't we? And they looked at the prevalence of food allergies since 1990. Now, this might not surprise you. The studies found that self-reported food allergies were far higher than other objective measures. So of the studies that said, do you have an allergy, fill out this questionnaire, they were far more likely to say there's a higher occurrence of allergies than the ones where they actually went in and had their immunoglobulin E test done.
Oh.
So the rise in food allergies might just be a reporting issue more than an actual...
An awareness kind of issue.
Yeah, yeah. Well, people think they've got an allergy, so because they think they've got an allergy, when these tests come through, they say, yes, I have an allergy to whatever it is, soy or...
And they may
so
very
so
well
far.
not. But...
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
It might not. It might be something else, or it might just be... It could even be a placebo thing, you know? They feel a bit rough, so they put it down to the cheese they ate the night
it's like
before.
all the people with gluten intolerance. It's like gluten-free, gluten this, gluten that.
Yeah, that doesn't really
Have you
exist. You
seen
can be
that?
celiac, but you can't be gluten intolerant.
Have you seen the South Park episode with the gluten intolerance?
No.
Where they get the
It
bread.
worries me how much our
and they-
discussions go down to South Park
and they,
episodes.
and they take the gluten, and it's like concentrated gluten, and they're like, Mr. Maggie's like, well, why don't you eat it? And he's like, oh, okay, yes, blah, blah. And his dick flies off. It's so good.
Oh, God. Oh, South Park. Jeez, you love that show.
Oh, it's a brilliant show.
All right, well, here, this study that was looking at the self-reported versus objective measures found that there was a variation of any food tolerance somewhere between, this is the prevalence in society, between 3% and 35% of the population.
Yeah, well, that's very accurate.
Yeah. Now, that's sort of saying, basically, we don't really know how many people are allergic to stuff in society, because some studies say it's as high as 35% to any kind of food. Some studies are saying it's as low as 3% of the population are allergic to any kind of food.
But there are conditions like mastocytosis where people can not be allergic to something one day and the next day be allergic to something.
Well, that's a good point, actually, and we'll come to that a bit later too. Now, there are other ethical issues with performing allergy tests on people. First and foremost is if someone is potentially allergic and you're constantly exposing them to allergens, you could kill them. So
Makes sense.
there's some ethical hurdles to go through when you're trying to set up these tests. It's not very often that ethical boards approve experimental design that says, here, look, we're going to test this on people to see if it kills them or not. You know, you don't want to expose them to that. And similarly, it's actually difficult to distinguish, like I said before, between an allergy and an intolerance. So sometimes during these tests, if they're looking for certain symptoms like rashes or, you know, sneezing or things like that, that could be an intolerance. But it gets
and stuff, yeah.
exactly, but it gets written down or chalked up as an allergy, whereas it might be something completely different. So this huge range we have in how many people are actually allergic to different foods is really not well understood yet.
Interesting.
Now, obviously, at one end of the spectrum, you might have a bit of an itchy nose or something. And at the other end of the spectrum, you've got things like anaphylaxis. Now, that whole range of things means that there's difficulty assessing the accuracy of measurements. And like you said before, people outgrow allergies too. From year to year, people can develop an allergy one year, be exposed to minor parts of it, and have it outgrown it the next year. So the rates of actual people who have allergies, the prevalence, changes all the time.
So it would make it hard to get an accurate and precise number because you'd have so many variations. It's like, okay, well, this many people have allergies. It's like, yeah, but what extent is that allergy? That allergy is on a spectrum. It's you know, it's like vision, you know, like having vision impairment or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a spectrum. It's, you know, different cases, you know, different people, and things may improve, things may get worse.
Absolutely. And the other problem with these sort of tests is very rarely do people feel 100% all of the time. You know, they might have eaten something funny the night before, and it's not going to make them incredibly sick, but some sort of bacterial infection could lead to irritable bowel syndrome, and that could be chalked up to an allergic reaction, when in fact it's not. It's just some sort of minor infection that's causing some irritation.
Like
and
gut
then that
bacteria and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That gets misdiagnosed too. So actually doing the research in the first place to determine the prevalence of allergies and what is an allergy and what isn't and the causes of them is incredibly difficult.
I know you can do things like elimination diets, where they'll take specific things out of your diet, so you can't eat that, and they'll kind of narrow down what it actually is. And it can go on for months and months with different types of allergies and things like that.
My wife got sick after going to Bali. That's not a big surprise, but determining what actually caused the sickness took about 2 years.
Wow, that's crazy.
It turned out to be a bacterial infection that was just a bit hard to identify. Oh. She had to give a stool sample. Put in a cup.
This cup.
I'm glad I didn't have to hold the cup for her.
I remember once I got food poisoning. I'm pretty sure it was food poisoning. And the doctor was like, oh, no, you got a virus. I'm like, oh, look, I don't feel like I got a virus. And I ended up lying and saying I did have blood in my stool, even though I didn't. And
just to get some sort of treatment.
Just to get some sort of treatment. I know you shouldn't lie to your doctor. But I was like hallucinating and stuff like that. It was that bad. This is when I was
sure you just weren't shelving something in the pub the night before?
No. This was actually, no, it was after when I was 18. So I remember it was so it was just, I remember just being so incredibly ill.
Yeah.
And then just lying to the doctor, because I thought, no, this isn't a virus. Like I've had virus in the past, and this is my gut. Like, you know, I'm shitting my pants over here, doc.
Yeah.
And so I just said, yeah, I got blood in my stool. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll give you antibiotics. Because for obvious reasons, they need to, reduce the amount of antibiotics that they give you, because obviously of superbugs and all that type of stuff, which makes complete sense. But it actually, and I may have had blood in my stool, just not have known it. But I remember as soon as I took antibiotics, within like a day, I was starting to feel better, and then I just made a complete recovery.
Yeah, they're an amazing drug, aren't they, antibiotics, when you're feeling a bit rough?
If I was alive, say 200 years ago, I reckon I'd be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would have died if it wasn't for antibiotics, I'm sure, several times in my life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but you had that scat-loving thing that you enjoyed doing.
That's
just
a lie.
Shit. Just eating piles and piles of shit.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move on now.
Okay.
Now, looking at most of the papers, and I read a fair few papers on this, as most of our listeners, recent listeners know, I do have a young child, so I've had to read up a lot about food allergies and things like that, and that sort of spurned on my idea for this show as well. So I have read a lot of papers. I don't profess to be a doctor, of course. But
your name's not doctor. So.
No, it's not. But then again, there are a lot of doctors out there that did degrees in, psychology. That's probably a bit shit.
Oh, man, would you just leave psychology alone?
Well, there are probably doctors in economics as well. Same problem.
Yeah, they suck.
Now, most of the papers I've read seem to agree that there really is a rise in allergies and hypersensitivity to foods. Okay, that seems to be a pretty common trend in all the papers. It's really how much the rise is where the disagreement is. Now, looking at the causes, so why, if there is a rise, and scientists seem to agree on that, what is causing the rise? So scientists recognize there is usually a genetic component, with parents who have allergies far more likely to produce children with allergies. So if you have hay fever or eczema or things like that, it's more likely your child is going to have some sort of allergy to something as well. Okay? Now, looking at some of the studies out there, they suggest that there's actually an interplay between this genetics and the environment, and this causes epigenetic factors. You remember doing epigenetics?
A little bit about it, epigenetics.
So that's like basically how the environment turns genes on or off.
Yeah.
Okay, so recent changes in the environment, things which we'll talk about a bit more later, have turned genes on or off, and that might have caused one of the rises or the expression of genes that are allergic to certain food or certain substances. Now, because a gene can be turned on or off, that can be turned on or off in your sperm or eggs as well. So these epigenetic factors can actually be passed on between generations, which means that if you develop an allergy in your life, you could potentially pass that allergy onto your child, even though your parents and their parents didn't have it because their gene wasn't turned on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
It's incredible how complex the whole body is, and genetics and the interplay of epigenetics. It's absolutely mind-blowing.
It is. There's even some research out there that suggests a mother's diet while they are pregnant might actually play a particularly important role in the development of asthma in children. So your parents might not have asthma, but if your mother's diet had certain features or certain aspects to it, you could develop asthma as it turns genes on or off in the developing fetus or embryo. Incredible. Which is crazy, right? Now, there are a whole lot of other factors which may be leading to increases to food allergies. They suggest globalization could be one of them. So as people move from one country to another, they're bringing food from their country to a new country, which those locals haven't experienced yet, so they might not be used to it. And likewise, those migrants going to that new country are consuming food that they haven't been exposed to in their culture, and that could be contributing to a rise in food allergies. Modern dietary habits as well, so binge eating, certain snack foods might be contributing as well. Changing bacterial communities, so how clean we are versus what we're eating and the bacteria we're growing in our foods. And they even suggest atmospheric pollution might have been suggested as a probable cause to the increased in allergic or allergies in people these days as well.
Wow, that's because if you look at it from a geographical perspective, what you're saying before about people moving, like the globalization thing, that makes complete sense because you have, say, a culture that has certain foods and their culture's been influenced by the foods they eat, so therefore they're probably less likely to have generations of people with an allergy to the food that they regularly eat.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden taking that food group or whatever into another culture, then those people might have a different set of cuisine and stuff like that. And all of a sudden you interchange the two, then, well, yeah, likewise, if
you can understand why they haven't evolved or adapted to deal with those sort of
exactly,
foodstuffs or those
their
substances.
culture has never evolved to try that type of food or have that specific thing in their diet.
It doesn't.
That does make sense, yeah.
This is the real problem with a lot of these hypotheses for determining where these allergies are rising, is a lot of them do make quite good sense, and there seems to be evidence to back up a lot of these theories. Now, it's very early days in this research, but so far it seems to be that there is potentially a number of reasons causing this problem. There was a 2014 epidemiological study which actually identified insufficient vitamin D, unhealthy dietary fat, and obesity as other potential triggers for allergies. So if you didn't get enough vitamin D, you could actually trigger an allergic response into some other level of exposure too. Very recently, a 2018 study which was looking at the development of allergies in neonatal rats. So this is really young rats. Once again, this is a rat study, not on humans, but we've got to start somewhere. And that found that defects in the skin barrier, coupled with exposure to an allergen and oral pre-exposure, led to sensitization in the adult rats. So that's basically saying if you had a way that an allergen could come in contact with your skin, and then you were exposed to it orally, so it was also inside you, it could trigger an allergic response that would later develop in life. And therefore, adult rats have these allergies developed from being very young rats and their exposure when they were quite young to these things. And it also suggests because it's something to do with skin barrier, it might have something to do with cleanliness. So soaps and things break down lipids. Lipids are part of our skin. Okay, so using soaps and being extra clean might help expose us more to more allergens, and that could lead to more allergies later on in life as well, and that could explain part of the increase of allergies.
It's funny because in one sense you're kind of saying, well, living a healthy lifestyle and exercise and all that type of stuff and the level of cleanliness, but don't want to be too cleanly because otherwise
that's right.
Let's just be normal.
Well, I don't know. That is probably the most well-researched hypothesis is called the hygiene hypothesis when we're talking about allergies. And it's just what you said. It's about being too clean.
Yeah.
Now, in this 2018 study about rats, I should stress again, so it's pretty early on to make any calls about whether using soap and baby wipes and things could actually lead to
for allergies. Some people it's not. For some people it's not.
I knew it. I fucking knew it.
I knew it. That's it. Our baby is not using soaps anymore. We're going to piss on her because I read on a website that the baby didn't get a cold after it was pissed on.
Yeah, that's right. And these neonatal rats developed allergies, so I've decided not to use baby wipes anymore.
Yes, I'm comparing my child to a rat.
Yeah, that's right. Now, this whole
Stop
hygiene...
gnawing at the drywall!
Gee, he really likes cheese. Now, this whole hygiene hypothesis, I reckon this is actually quite interesting. And once again, it's a bit like the globalization hypothesis. It does seem to make some sort of sense. The hygiene hypothesis is probably the most popular idea about the cause of rise in allergies, and it basically states that excessive cleanliness in the modern world is rendering our immune system underactive. So it means basically we're getting bored. need something to do.
Yeah, I guess as well. It's just you're not training your immune system, I'm assuming. Is that what you're getting at? Like
Yeah, pretty much. There are two levels. We've got T helper cells 1 and T helper cells 2. The T helper cell 1s go out there and they fight off the bacteria and the viruses, and the T helper cells 2 come in there and sort of back up those Th1 cells. Okay, and they say, I've got your back, yeah, we'll fight this together. Okay, they get called in when the Th1 cells have sort of started their war as, sort of like a support army.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is because we're so clean, our Th1 cells aren't doing anything. So they're not being used. So they're going, great, this is a great life on the front line. There's no warring going on. We're just hanging out. The Th2 cells don't get the memo, though. So they're at the back going, what the fuck is that? There's a peanut in the way. I'm going to come and fight it. And then they trigger an immune response. So this overactive T helper 2 cell is coming and might be triggering an allergic response. Yeah, it's weird. I like to think of it like with less bacteria and less viruses around for our immune system to fight. It's kind of like a person from Boston at 2 a.m. on St. Patrick's Day. It doesn't care what it is. If it looks wrong, it'll fight it.
And hello to our listeners from Boston. And my apologies once again. Byrne's views do not represent that of Sci-gasm. He just represents a twat.
Oh, well, anyone who's been to Boston would probably back me up. I bet the Bostonians want to fight me right now.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
That'd be right. Honey Bostonians. You take a left. Okay, you got it.
I'm walking over here.
Yeah. Now, there was the problem with this, there's a lot of evidence which backs this up. So there's, generally speaking, allergies are less common on farmlands or in countries where what you might term as less clean, there's less cleanliness around. So allergies are far less rare, which seems to support this idea. Allergies don't exist in environments where there are more bacteria and more viruses for the immune system to fight.
Makes sense.
I'm not talking like really dirty places, but that seems to back it up. This 2018 study I was talking about cleaning your skin and exposing stuff through the skin, so excessive cleanliness might seem to support this assertion as well. But there is also a lot of evidence which suggests otherwise. Like, while generally speaking, people on farms don't have allergies, generally speaking, people on farms are sicker anyway. So,
What do you mean?
I'm not saying they're dirty or anything.
You're going to have to clarify that.
They're more exposed to bacteria and viruses, so they're going to be sick. And if you're sick, your body's going to fight that rather than an allergen. So it might not be that they don't have allergies. It's just that their body doesn't have time to fight allergies. They generally die younger. They're generally less well tested. There's a smaller sample size of people on farms compared to like city communities and things like that. Yeah. And when you go and look at city communities, it doesn't necessarily stack up. There was a 2013 review of the hypothesis, and it seems to fall short of being able to explain all of the observations associated with food allergies. But there does seem to be some well-substantiated ideas which warrant ongoing investigation. So it's a standard sort of science discussion answer, We don't think that this accounts for every case, but there is enough cases that we should keep investigating it.
I often think, and I'm sure you're the same, like you or I don't get sick very often. Very rarely do we kind of.
If I get sick, I get proper sick. It usually knocks me out for 2 days.
Yeah, see, I can go years without getting a cold or anything like that.
Yeah,
and
wow.
and
la-dee-da, Mr. Fucking Wolverine over here.
No, but I just think to myself, I must have been one grubby kid when I was younger. Like the shit I would have put in my mouth, probably literal shit I put in my mouth, would definitely have some sort of play.
A guy I grew up with won a radio contest for the most disgusting thing you've ever eaten, and he ate a dead rat when he was a kid because he didn't know what it was and just shoved it in his mouth, as kids tend to do. A desiccated rat. I was like, that's fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
But like, probably a pretty good immune system out of him right now.
Yeah, of course. He's probably like fucking like Wolverine, like you said. He's just like, just gross
just
claws.
Can't get sick.
He just can't get sick. He's just that, or he's like, because I know that there's
Wolverine
cases,
gets hay fever.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Like, it's so funny. Do you ever think like these superheroes? Do you ever think like, they make them out to be like these amazing people? Like imagine like the, like think of like the most evil villain, right? Who?
Yeah, okay.
Think of one. Evil villain.
Oh, I don't know. Probably Thanos.
Thanos? Okay. Imagine Thanos taking a shit.
That's a good point.
Just reading the paper, wiping their ass.
Does he shit? I feel like he'd shit pure energy. Just a laser beam out of his ass.
Yeah. See? Like
Yeah,
once
that's
again,
funny. That's a good
it's
point.
like whenever you get scared of like a supervillain or some sort of predator, imagine them like taking a dump.
Imagine Beast taking up from X-Men. Fuck, imagine the toilet paper he'd go through. Oh, he'd definitely have some clippers in there, shaving his ass. He's probably got like a baboon ass, just nice and clean.
Yeah. Like you look at all these kind of, these superheroes and stuff like that, all these villains, and you're like, like I don't know. It's just one of those things. How we got onto this, I got no idea.
Oh dear. Yeah, so let's flipping it back onto the allergies. Looking at the allergies, while there are only a few foods causing most allergies, we don't really know how much allergies are rising. We think they're going up, but it might be minuscule, and it's probably more related to awareness and diagnoses rather than an actual cause. But if there is a reason, like a accessible reason that's not diagnosis causing the increase in allergies, we actually don't know what it is. There could be several different reasons all interacting with each other that are causing this increase in allergies. So if you have food allergies, I've got bad news for you. There's not much we can do about it except identify it and eliminate it. That's pretty much what doctors recommend, is if you've got an allergy, don't eat it. There's no treatment to it, which sucks. They have like little exposure things, and you can improve over time when you have a food allergy. But if you've got anaphylaxis, you're not improving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't exactly just, I've got really bad anaphylaxis to peanuts, so if I have a little bit of peanut, maybe I'll get used to it. No, you'll fucking die. Don't do that.
Well, that's a nice public service announcement there, PSA. Eh?
Yeah. You're not going to get used to peanuts if you have bad anaphylaxis. Just buy an EpiPen and stay away from peanuts.
Yeah, I know. I'm thankful I don't have any allergies, because it'd just be the worst. Like, even like if anyone even comes near you, breathes on you, or family members kiss you or something like that on the lips.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. Oh my God.
Like, family members start making out with you and they got peanuts. And
Yeah. Oh, she's been eating shellfish.
Mind
No
you,
one
the
does.
anaphylaxis is the least of your worries if you've got family making out with you.
Yeah, that's right. Although if you do have allergies in the family, seeing as a genetic component, if your family's making out with you, they've probably got the allergy too.
And probably a prison sentence coming up too. Thanks very much, Byrne. That was very interesting.
Yeah, so future kids, watch out for those allergies.
Yeah, make sure you eat a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Little shit.
Literal. Don't be too clean. Don't be too dirty. Try to stay away from pollution, but not too much. Feel free to move around and try lots of different foods, but just be cautious that you don't get too risque there.
Experiment, but
not too hard.
Thanks very much, guys. Once again, thanks to our Patreons who make the show possible. Thanks to all our followers on Facebook. I think we've probably we've hit 85,000 followers now on Facebook, which is good.
We have.
Twitter's still a bit slow, but that's cool.
That's all right. Twitter's on its way down.
Twitter, yeah, boo. Thanks very much, guys.